Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. The second arc of Skybound's Transformers series continues, with issue number 8 advancing the build-up to whatever it is that Johnson has in store for us. Similar to last issue, the Autobots and Decepticons are still putting their respective houses in order, with the Autobots and their human allies settling into their new status quo after retaking the arc and working to press their advantage against the Decepticons. Meanwhile, the Decepticons, now led by Soundwave, begin to make some big moves, sinking the USS Henry Harrison in order to power up the newly excavated Nemesis. Not entirely unexpected, but still cool to see the ship nonetheless. This fully reenacts the setup of the Autobot and Decepticon bases after the More Than Meets the Eye miniseries that kicked off the G1 cartoon, with the Autobots making use of their crashed vessel in the mountains while the Decepticons set up their lair underneath the ocean. So we're seeing the comic continue to establish itself as a reimagining of the G1 cartoon, just through the lens of the slightly more mature animated movie, and topped off with Johnson's own unique spin on things. Case in point, Astrotrain. In this issue, we find out that Megatron imprisoned Astrotrain aboard the Nemesis at some point prior to the factions crashing on Earth. And this raises more than a few questions, like how long Astrotrain was confined. He seems to suggest it was a substantial amount of time, which again prompts the question of just how long ago the Autobots and Decepticons crashed on Earth. But of course, the big question is why Astrotrain was locked up in the first place. But given the surly and combative personality Johnson has given to the character, it might just be down to Astrotrain kind of being an annoying jerk. This version of Astrotrain seems to be a much more serious physical threat, more so than I remember his counterpart from the G1 animated series being anyway. He's got the guts to actively seek out a fight with Megatron, at the very least. Time will tell if he has the power to actually back up that bravado and bad attitude. Regardless, Astrotrain may be a timely addition to the Decepticon ranks as Soundwave reestablishes contact with Shockwave on Cybertron at the end of this issue, calling for reinforcements. I'm curious to see what Soundwave's mission for Astrotrain will entail, maybe with him acting as a transport between Earth and Cybertron, or maybe he'll just primarily be used to move supplies from various locations on Earth to the Nemesis, for whatever plan Soundwave has in mind. A space bridge, perhaps? Maybe he's just there to help with the Autobots. Whatever the case, the Decepticon triple changer seems like a valuable ally. But this part with Astrotrain's tantrum is just one character moment in an issue chock full of them. Throughout this comic, Johnson uses moments like these to plant seeds for future revelations or conflicts. The whole thing with Thundercracker during the sequence on the USS Henry Harrison, for instance, or the pretty solid indicators that Skywarp might end up helping the Autobots in the long run, like restoring Wheeljack's legs. But anyway, this character work is also sometimes used seemingly just for the sake of making the reader feel emotion. A good example of that is Jetfire's curious resurrection, which finds the Autobot at least somewhat revived, but apparently locked in his alt mode and pretty far from living his best life, if we're being honest, even somewhat resentful of being brought back, unable to move, unable to see the stars, as he says, and so frightened by his newfound existence that he doesn't want to be left alone in the darkness. Yay, Jetfire's back. Feels good. I would say that Jetfire's return is cause for not losing hope that the Autobots that were previously axed might not be totally gone, but it seems like there might be some serious limitations on resurrections, not to mention potentially lasting consequences.
Sometimes dead is better, Lewis.
I get the feeling that Johnson likes to grab hold of his audience's hearts and give them a good squeeze now and then, because there are several moments like that in this issue. Spike reflecting on the loss of his father and brother, Carly thinking that her van is the only thing she has left of her old life, which Speaking of Carly, whoo boy, she is melting down. Now, I think her actions and reactions make sense based on what she's experienced, but she's turning into a ticking time bomb of a character. I mean, the reckless abandon with which she runs into the Ark armed with a rocket launcher to punch Skywarp's ticket. Whoa! Put the RPG down and get some help. Thankfully, RC, maybe recognizing that Carly is seriously spiraling, forges a bond with the human typically reserved for Cybertronians. Carly becomes RC's Iron Apprentice, a title that signifies the beginning of a clan, something we've gotten references to in previous issues, so it's nice to start to get a bit deeper into the weeds on the world building front, as this gives us something of an idea of what the word clan can mean for Cybertronians. We can infer based on the dialogue here that RC was Ultra Magnus's Iron Apprentice, so this is very much RC following through with her concern from last issue for Carly's well-being. I'm into seeing where this goes, especially because it might lead to more glimpses into Cybertronian lore and society, but I'm also a little conflicted because I'm still missing that Carly and Cliffjumper duo, a team-up that is sadly still not repaired in this issue. In fact, the rift maybe is even deepened a little bit, which is admittedly a bummer, but it does make for good character drama, right? Obviously, I'd love to see them be pals again, but I don't know, I got a bad feeling. I think it's likely that we're building up to something even more heartbreaking with this pair, but I guess we will see. We get less from the Cybertron B story this time around, just a single page showing Elita 1 escaping with the bot that I assumed was Ultra Magnus, though he seems kinda small here, doesn't he? At first I wondered if this might be somebody else, even having the crazy idea that we might be looking at a flashback and this was Optimus Prime, but that doesn't really make sense, considering the guy says he was tortured for 150 years, which is more or less how long we've been told the war has been raging. Whew, and you want to talk emotional gut punch moments? Then how about when Magnus, or whoever he is, asks Elita 1 to kill him, but she refuses because she can't let him go yet, though she does promise to kill them both if they get captured. Whew, boy. The underlying refrain of this issue really seems to be
Sometimes dead is better.
This segment also reveals that my assumption from last issue that Primus was not part of this continuity was incorrect, as Elita 1 invokes his name at the top of the sequence. So good to know, I guess, and a first for the continuity. And of course, we've got to talk about the art. Issue 8 is a bit of a stunner in the looks department, I gotta say. Corona's artwork continues to impress, and is it me, or do his Transformers characters look even better this time around than they did previously? I really like the way Optimus and Wheeljack look in this issue. This panel of the two of them together is just infused with G1 cartoony goodness. That might not seem all that noteworthy or impressive if you're not into the cartoon style, but I know for me personally, it plays to a lot of nostalgia I have for these specific looks for these characters. Corona also did an excellent job with Astrotrain's appearance, making him seem powerful and menacing. This whole sequence is really nice, starting with this Devastator ripping open Autobot City-esque moment, and working through a variety of angles and distances to make the progression of pain that Astrotrain inflicts on Thundercracker more kinetic, engaging, and vicious. Even this one in the aftermath with Astrotrain just standing there looks badass. I don't know, I might be kind of the odd man out here, but I've never been the biggest Astrotrain fan. Always considered myself more of a Blitzwing guy, to be honest. But this bloodthirsty, psychotic Astrotrain, I like. Corona's figure work is strong across the board with dynamic and interesting posing, but his figures are given a massive boost by his backgrounds, especially the Cybertronian stuff. And don't get me wrong, the Earth stuff looks good too, but his Cybertronian interiors are off the charts, with tons of intricate lines, panels, buttons, wires, and a bunch of other junk that I don't really know what it is, but it looks cool and makes the surroundings much more interesting. The backgrounds have got some real pizzazz, and I really dig them. But I'd be remiss to not mention the role Mike Spicer's color work plays in making all this stuff pop even more. And now that the Nemesis is in play, we get to switch back and forth between the Autobot orange of the Ark and the Decepticon purple of the Nemesis. And of course, there's some little touches of yellow, red, and a lighter purple that keeps it from being too monochromatic. We even get a nice juxtaposition of Elita One's pink armor against this greenish blue interior on Cybertron, which, again, note Corona's awesome mechanical detailing here. Great stuff. I just love the way this series looks. Even the first panel of the first page, I mean, just look at it. A gorgeous landscape that's visually interesting, not just because of the amount of fine detail and shading, but because of all the color choices. And then you've got RC striking a pose here. This whole composition is somehow beautifully mundane and otherworldly space opera at the same time. And I love it. Also, a lot of sunset imagery in this arc so far. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Body count is more complicated this issue. I'm sure I won't get them all, but I'm counting the ones I can see. So all the people in the water and the 2 people per jet that Thundercracker and Soundwave initially slap out of the air, and then these 3 dudes who Soundwave probably vaporized, leads me to a total of 19 humans. But like I said, there's no way that's all of them. But that's realistically all I can count with what I'm given here. So we're going with that. Plus 1 for Frenzy, who I didn't count from issue 5, but I am counting now, thanks to a comment by Johnson in the letters page that makes it a little more definitive, but -1 for Jetfire. We've arrived at the point where it's maybe no longer feasible to keep going with this tally, considering the mass casualties that are racking up, but I'm going to keep giving it the old college try for now. But that's all from me on this one. Another solid entry in the Energon universe. A little slow, maybe, plot-wise, but still rich in story, I would say. There are a lot of character moments and neat little things here. More than I had time to cover here, so feel free to shout out what stood out to you that I didn't get a chance to talk about. Like, what's up with Beachcomber hiding in the bushes on that first page? Didn't expect that. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and so forth. You know the drill. Thank you for watching this. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.